Hi everybody. In this video, I want to explain how we can leverage today generative AI to help us with pain point exploration for a new startup idea. And in this video, I will discuss 4 different topics. So first, I will briefly explain why is it actually important to do pain point exploration when you have a new startup idea. Then I will show you how you can actually use the Brainstormer GPT to help you in brainstorming about new problems that could be interesting starting points for a startup. And then I will show you another GPT that can help you with executing what I call synthetic customer interviews. And at the end of the video, I will even show you how you can start scaling customer interviews with a team of agents, where you will not interview one single person, but where you can interview as much synthetic persons as you want and automatically also receive an analysis of these interviews. So that's the content for this video. So let's get started. So let me briefly explain why it is actually so important to identify a relevant problem. So when we engage in startup activities, when we want to build a new venture, we want to start from an interesting problem, a problem that is worth solving. So we don't care at the beginning about the solution. There will be multiple solutions to address a particular problem, but we first want to identify a problem that is interesting and that we get excited about to solve. So that should be the starting point of our process. And so let me show you a specific GPT that I have designed that can help you in finding interesting problems. So here is my Painpoint Brainstormer GPT, and you will find a link to this GPT in the description of this video. And I've now opened this GPT on my iPad because otherwise I would have a sound problem here when recording. So let me show you on the iPad how I can now use this GPT. So I will enable the voice mode now, and then we can start the conversation. Hi, can we start talking?
I'm ready when you are. Let's kick things off. Are you thinking of exploring a pain point from your own life, something you've observed in others, or do you want to start with a broad domain? And should we keep this to 15 or 30 minutes?
Let's start with my own life and let's go for a 15-minute sprint.
Perfect. Since we're focusing on your life, I suggest we start with observation and frustration logging. Let's keep it simple. Can you share 3 moments from the past week where you thought, I wish this were easier? Take your time and just say them out loud as they come to you.
The first moment I would like to share is that I was taking the train with the Deutsche Bahn. I was very anxious about the delays I was facing.
Thanks for sharing that. Let's capture that as anxiety and frustration about train delays. Now, what's a second moment that comes to mind from this past?
So here you can see how you can engage in quite a natural conversation with this GPT. And in the end, this will help you to start thinking about some pain points that you can explore. And let me also briefly show you the backend of this GPT, how it actually is built. So here we are in the backend of this GPT, and it's actually quite straightforward. So I have given the GPT some instructions, and more specifically that it should be a facilitator of brainstorm session where students can kind of leverage this tool to identify interesting pain points. So that's kind of the instructions that I provided here. And on top of that, I uploaded a PDF with best practices for solo brainstorming, so that this is kind of the knowledge that the GPT has to help you in a structured way to engage in brainstorming. So that's kind of the context I provided here. And in that way, you already have here a very nice brainstormer that can give you some first ideas about which kind of potential problems you could explore. Now, when we have identified an interesting problem, it is quite crucial to get even a deeper understanding of this problem. And this we can do with what is called customer interviews. And so the purpose of the customer interviews is not to start already looking for solutions, but is actually to interview people to get a deeper understanding of when do they face the problem, how did they already try to solve it, what is exactly the hardest part of the problem that you identified. These are kind of the factual questions that you want to ask people to get a deeper understanding of the problem that they are facing. So it's not about kind of selling already a solution. We are not talking about solutions here. It's just about getting a deeper understanding of the kind of core problem that you have identified. Now, of course, engaging in interviews with people is not always straightforward, especially when you're under time pressure, and especially if you have never done this before. So that's why I've designed a GPT that can help you to do what we call synthetic customer interviews. So we will actually leverage ChatGPT to help us in conducting customer interviews. So again, let me show you how this GPT is working. Yes, and so here you see the customer interview trainer, and again, it's the same logic. So we can enable the voice mode, and then we can start chatting with this GPT. So yes, so let me show you now how this customer interview GPT works. And again, I will demonstrate it now on my iPad. So let me enable this GPT. Can we get started?
Fantastic. Let's get ready. First, I need two things from you. What's the specific pain point you want to explore in this customer interview? And can you describe the persona you want me to represent?
So the pain point that I want to explore is that people struggle to pay their energy bills, and the persona that I want to interview is a single person of 25 years old living in a rented apartment in Wallander.
Whenever you're ready to begin the interview, just jump in and I'll respond as the persona.
Hi, what is for you the hardest part of monitoring and paying your energy bills?
Honestly, the hardest part is how unpredictable it feels. Some months the bill jumps and I have no clue why. I try to keep track, but it's confusing, and by the time it's due, I'm scrambling to cover it.
And when is this exactly a problem? Are there specific times in the year when it's really problematic?
Winter is definitely the worst. When it's cold and I need more heating, the bills spike. But I only realize the impact when I get that bill, and it's a shock. It's around those months I struggle most to keep up and have to cut back elsewhere.
And what did you already try to solve this problem?
Few things like setting reminders to check my usage or even using.
Yes, so as you can see, you can then engage in quite a natural conversation with this GPT to get a deeper understanding of the pain points. So this is how you can use this specific GPT. And the nice thing is that you will also then get a transcript in your chat environment so that you can further analyze the transcript of this interview. Of course, this will be just one person that you interview, and I would definitely encourage you to do multiple interviews with different personas, but we can even scale this. Yeah, so when you have already generated some first insights, we can actually scale it so that you can really interview a broader batch of people. And this we can do with what is called a team of agents. And so let me explain you how we can do that. Yes, so nowadays in quite some AI applications, for instance, in the ChatGPT desktop application, we can design what is called a team of agents. That means that we can formulate several agents that each have their kind of specialty, and then these agents will be able to work together to execute a specific task. And so here you see the workflow that I have designed to create a team of agents for a customer interview, where the first agent will create some relevant questions based on the input of the user. In this case, the user will have to say, what is the pain point that I want to explore, and who do I actually want to interview? And then the first agent will create some relevant questions. Then the second agent will use these questions to again engage in a synthetic customer interview. And this agent will create as an output a transcript. And then a third agent will use that transcript to analyze the interview and will give you an analysis. And until quite recently, to create this kind of team of agents, you really had to go into a coding environment, use OpenAI API keys, start using SDKs, so quite technical. But fortunately, quite recently, it has become much more easier. So now you can do this actually quite easy in the ChatGPT desktop application. And the only thing you will need to do is to give for every agent a detailed description. So for every agent, it makes sense to briefly describe what is actually the goal of the agent, what is kind of the specialty or the backstory of this agent, what is the core task of the agent, and what kind of output should the agent provide. So here you see the instructions that I've provided for the first agent that needs to generate the questions. Then I also have done the same thing for the agent that needs to execute the interview. And finally, I also have done this for the agent that needs to analyze the interview. And so now with this information, we can actually design our agent team in ChatGPT, the desktop application, and then it can also immediately execute it. So let me show you how that looks like. Yes, so now I'm in my ChatGPT desktop application, and you need to use the desktop application. So it's not something you can do in the web browser. If you have never used the ChatGPT desktop application, I have a separate video, and I will put a link in the description on how to download the ChatGPT desktop application and how to start working with this particular application. But so if you're in the ChatGPT desktop application, you can simply initiate a new chat. And then here is my description to set up a team of agents that can jointly execute this customer interview. So what you can see is that actually I've provided a description for the different agents. So here's the description of agent 1. And then we will have a description of agent 2 and agent 3. And again, I will put this description also in the description of the video so that you can also use it as a starting point. But so in the end, what I simply have done here is to formulate my team of agents. And then I set up and run the following team of sub-agents. And so let me show you then what you will get as output. So then indeed, actually, it will set up these 3 different agents and will execute the task. So here we can see the questions that have been generated by agent 1. Then for agent 2, you will get a transcript and a summary. And agent 3 gives you an analysis of this interview. Yeah. So again, here you can see how we can do a customer interview. But now the nice thing is, and I think this is really what makes it different, now we can actually write a follow-up prompt. And let me show you the follow-up prompt that I have used. So now as a follow-up prompt, I've said, okay, can you generate 10 additional personas that are relevant to interview? Subsequently, use the same team of sub-agents to interview each persona. As output, I want to receive an Excel with overview of all interviewed personas, separate transcripts for each interview, and a summary document summarizing most important observations across the interviews. And so then actually, it will do as instructed, create 10 different personas, interview each of these 10 personas, and then also make an analysis across the 10 interviews. So this is really where we can start scaling the team of agents. And so then indeed, I receive as output, as I wanted, an Excel with these personas, for every interview a transcript and a Word document giving me a cross-interview summary. Yeah, so then we can really start scaling the output. The only thing you need to consider here, we are in the ChatGPT desktop application, and here you will face some token limits. Yeah, so don't start now asking to do this for 200 people, because then you will quickly run out of tokens. I would also encourage you to not use the most sophisticated model for this. So for instance, here a 5.5 model, or like the 5.6 Luna, which is quite an efficient model, would be more than enough, because this task is not that complicated for ChatGPT. Okay, so this is what I wanted to share about how we can today leverage AI for customer interviews. I hope this can help you to start exploring pain points, to get deep insights. And in that way, you should be ready to come up with then, in the next step, interesting ideas on how to solve the pain point that you identify. Thanks for your attention. Bye.